Hello, Internet. It's my birthday! So I thought, I'd buy a couple extra comics and do some stuff. And this week, I feel like I actually at least have a couple books to talk about, so I kind of want to start there, and we'll just kind of go whatever. I'm not going to plow through all my books tonight, but man, yeah, so party on! So first up, I heard about this one because of Ghost Critics, so thanks for pointing me in the right direction. There's this one shot with Shaky Kane and Comercraft and QW, and I don't really know any of these guys. I've heard of Shaky Kane before a little bit, but I haven't looked too much into his stuff, and this was just fun and kind of exciting and just kind of very comic booky, obviously, and just... if you're on the fence about getting this, I'd recommend it because it is a one-shot and it's just fun. There's a lot of cool, weird little concepts in here. And it is totally like male power fantasy, but I think if you're coming down on that, you'd be crazy. This is just a fun, awesome book. And you can't even... It's not about spoiling. It's like, how do you even start talking about it without just talking about all the craziness? But just... cool thing to check out from Image, and I'm just babbling, talking, and platitudes, but it's just fun to have something where you just have this crazy guy who is Captain Dinosaur, and someone starts, mind reading him, so he just churns off his brain, goes into reptilian mode, and then he's fighting Frankensteins, and then, hot chicks are going at it, and you get panels like that, or just pages. It's just good times. Then the second one was Dark Engine, which is an Image #1, so you gotta pick it up. This was interesting. It was recommended to me today by the comic shop people, and it's an interesting book. It's more primal. It's definitely fantasy. There's talk about dragons and stuff, but it's not like Knights of Yore or whatever. It's more like cave people, but it's just kind of crazy, and it really, really reminded me a lot of Pretty Deadly, because it's kind of all this crazy stuff, and it's steeped in metaphor, and you really kind of have to push yourself to understand. And there's obviously this bigger story, but the problem is we're only getting a chunk of one initial story and all that, and it's one of those things that we talk about stuff that reads better in trade or issues, and some of it's just more flow or what comes naturally or how things are chunked out. But stuff like Pretty Deadly, or in this case Dark Engine, feels like it would read and trade so much better because there's all this building of the story and how the metaphors are going to build and how that influences the story in the next chapter and whatnot. And you really need to have that in your conscious mind as you move forward. It's not something like what happened last time and just a series of events, but rather taking a theme forward, and you need to use that theme in order to really construct a concrete enough narrative to really follow through the story, because it's written on kind of more shaky ground. That would be really hard to parse, month to month, and then an inevitable delay and whatever. And part of it, too, is I really am suspecting some inevitable delays, because the art in here is a little bit gory, but gorgeous. It's very, primal, and there's definitely blood, and there's a bit of gore, but it's not... gratuitous, that's... it's to the theme of the book, but it's all there, but it's there. Words escape me tonight, because when you get older, you don't necessarily get wiser. I don't know, I wouldn't... And as far as recommending this book, if you like Pretty Deadly, this is so up your alley. If that sort of thing isn't your bag, not so much. But if you didn't like Pretty Deadly because it was kind of this weird pseudo psycho western thing, and you'd rather just have something that was kind of this crazy narrative, but is just kind of, you could almost treat it more like older comic where like there are the words and you pull some of it, but you can really pull the story from the movement and the pictures, because there's a lot of this comic where there's not really so much with words. And it is, I mean, it's action, but it's more than just action. It's what this character is doing and where they are, and kind of reminiscent of Prophet in that respect. So, I don't know. From all that rambling, make of it what you will if you're on the fence about picking that one up. But if anyone else was reading, they got a better grasp on it, because apparently I'm not all here tonight. Let me know. I'd be curious. So Bternal's moving forward, and we're getting more of the mystic angle, which is actually more interesting than I would have given it credit for. It's much better here than the initial build-up, though it is kind of funny that it was, months ago it was last touched on, and now they just entered the building they were walking to then. And we see a little bit more of the Batgirl Red Hood thing, and the Robin Harper thing. What's weird is Harper has like a grifter mask, and I'm hoping that they dig into that a little more. But, man, this book just keeps surprising me, and outside of a couple of weeks ago with the crazy art, this book has been just keeping it up. The Deadpool Weekly, Dracula's Gauntlet, is moving forward, and this is actually turning out to be fun. There's like 2 chapters in a thing. I think this was web originally, and so you're getting 2 of the web installments per, and it's cranking out, and it's been, more fun, more like what you'd kind of expect from a Deadpool comic, but also having fun going forward, and actually using vampires in an interesting and fun way, which is not an easy thing for me to say anymore. So TMNT 36. Man, it's hard to believe, and wow. This comic has come so far, and it's interesting because I really enjoy this, and I loved this issue. But in it is probably the first character redesign that I wasn't as keen on as most of the rest. They touch on the Rat King, and he looks much more like a punk vampire kind of deal than like the man of like rags tattered together and all that. I felt like that fit the character and does so much more. But they're doing something so much more different with him now. He's more like a boogeyman character who more is completely a psychological character. So he's only going to prey on you in your thoughts and in your dreams, that sort of thing. So it's interesting, and I like the idea, I like the execution of the comic, just the character design in particular, and it's drawn very well. It's just the design is not in line with the previous versions of the character as much, and I do like the theme and the idea of that. It's always been kind of creepy, but it's always made a sense. And then like the idea of this man who's fallen from society and is completely in rags, has control over this rat who actually in a way is of a higher society, was forced to live there because of the mutation, depending on how you want to look at that. But Splinter's always been of kind of a certain level of nobility in just the way he acts, and then to kind of find that level of them with the connection is something I've always liked. But here we have a completely different thing, and it's fun and it's different, and you kind of see how a quiet single issue is playing into the larger whole. I've said it before and I've said it again. It's just best comic on the shelves, guys. Then there's the main event, Robin Rises. This is a double issue really to kick off this event, I don't know, run through for Batman Robin. It's interesting. What really caught me, though, was the intro where they go through Batman and Damian's relationship. And there's not really any spoilers in here because all this is fairly old by now. Though interesting because I'm actually reading the Grant Morrison stuff, and some of the early stuff I literally just finished reading. it's really crazy, first off, because a lot of this stuff, by years, predates the New 52 at this point. And they're carrying that continuity forward. And for the most part, it doesn't seem like it should be too big of a deal, but the weirdest part that hit me as we're talking about this is there's a big point about Final Crisis where, Batman died for a while. Got blasted to the past. But irregardless, it's a big confrontation with Darkseid, which means all the implications of that are there. But then there's the implications of how they met and dealt with Darkseid in the New 52, a la JLA at the beginning and a little bit later. And so now those things have to reconcile with each other. And they don't, and it's comics, and I understand that, but it's just like, they could have glazed over it a bit more, but they directly go to the I-beams of Darkseid taking out Batman in this frame, in this comic. And then later in the comic, when they're dealing with stuff, they're talking about current events, and it ties to other characters because it's a big event, so no surprise this goes a little bit outside the Bat universe. It's just kind of crazy. And so now we're struggling with the New 52 versus whatever else, and it's hard, and it's weird because the only two universes that kind of had this carry-through problem were Batman's, which is most of it, and then the Green Lantern stuff. So really the only characters that really got a fresh reboot are your XYZs, and then Wonder Woman definitely had a restart, Superman definitely had a restart, but I mean, when Green Lantern and Batman and all the mythos those two carry, and that's a lot of mythos, just get rolled over, I'm starting to see this cracks the New 52 and suddenly it doesn't work so well. So it's this weird conundrum that's coming up again in a place that I would have not thought of it coming up randomly. And it's interesting, but really, I mean, if you're willing to just let some of it go, this is a really fun comic, and it's really cool, and it's really kind of interesting to see Batman in a lot of ways at his worst, which makes me like Batman more because it makes him seem less impossible in every way. So yeah. And if you would stay this long, I figure you're cool. If you are longtime fans especially, but short-time fans, hit me up. There's a little project I want to get together. It should only take a few minutes of your time if you're interested. Yeah. But, you guys all have a good one, and I'll catch you soon. Another comic review.